Good evening. Thank you for being here for our ESCP Europe CEO studio. Tonight, we have the privilege to have in our school an alumni of the school, Guillaume de Monplanet, who is going to tell us about a lot of things he did, and as you can see, he is now Senior Vice President Consumer Direct Europe for Adidas. And can we say, Guillaume, that in a way Adidas is the company that branded sports, to begin with?
Good evening, everyone. Very happy to be here again. It seems that I come quite on a regular basis now for different reasons, but it's always a pleasure for me. So your question is Adidas at the beginning of branded sports? Yes, probably, I would say, for different reasons. First of all, because Adidas is one of the most ancient or older sports brand in the world. We started in the 20s through our founder, Adi Dassler. Thus the name Adidas. It's the name of the founder. The guy was called Adolf Dassler, a German guy. Created the company in the 20s and then created the Adidas brand after the 36 Olympics. So in the early 40s, created the Adidas brand. But more importantly, what's interesting when you think about branded sports is that his son, who came after him, his name was Horst, actually created sports marketing. So everything you know today about sponsoring in sports, the Olympics, CIO, the UEFA, the Champions League, all of that, putting money on athletes and on clubs and on federations, all of that was invented actually by Horst Dassler back in the 70s actually. So yes, Adidas is probably more than any other brand at the beginning of marketing within sports.
Yeah, obviously, you're selling lifestyle. Also, it's people can really identify with the brand. The consumer, for the consumers, it means a lot. And we speak today of a blockbuster economy, and you're part of it. Investing in superstars, football clubs, turning consumer into fans. So can you tell us a little more about this blockbuster economy?
Yeah, a few things here. First of all, sports is culture. Of course, sports is an industry. We make products for people who do sports, that's true, but sports is way more than this. Sports is a cultural aspect. Sports is part of everyday life in many, many places around the world with many, many different people. Probably most of you somehow live with sports and sports brands in your daily life, and probably everybody around you does that. It's one of the few topics, honestly, in the world that has that power of impacting people's life every day, anywhere in the world, and actually sometimes changing people's life. And so sports is that, okay? Sports is a cultural element. So it's way more than just an industry or a market or a marketing story, I would say. And then the second thing is that sports is also lifestyle. I mean, you see it every day. You guys wear sneakers probably, in your daily life, or t-shirts or sweaters or whatever. And so sports is fashion. And as a fashion topic, I want to say, it's also part of a bigger economy than just the technical economy of sports items. That's what makes sports a bigger blockbuster, probably impact on consumers.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, Guillaume, you have a reputation of being a good coach in your way. Some people define yourself as an orchestra conductor, inside the company. And you're a good coach for the teams, for the, you know how to align strategies and sales and all those kind of things. To carry on this metaphor, there's a famous football coach, Sir Alex Ferguson, who says that you have to start with a foundation when you build your teams, all players, but also a pipeline of new players that you have to know to match the message to the moment during the matches, during competition, that you have to set high standards and stick to it, not obvious, that you have to know some people said that to me that you're good at that. You have to know when to control and when to let go. So, would you? I mean, how do you relate to this? I mean, do you feel that it's relevant for your everyday job? As in fact, a CEO has a real job. It's a CEO's real job. I mean, he does it every day. So amazing as it can seem, and Guillaume with his team is doing this a lot. So he's going to tell us about it.
So yeah, I would say that people's management is probably the biggest and most important thing that you're going to do in your life later. Whether you work in a startup, you're a manager in a big company, or you eventually end up as a CEO someday, people and the way you manage people is going to be the fundamental lever for success in your career. There's no doubt about this. And it's true that managing people correctly means two things for me. One, casting. You need to have the right people at the right place at the right time. And that's actually a very difficult thing to do. And it requires technique, it requires feeling, it requires experience. It's not something that comes from the sky and that day one you're good at casting. Casting is something that you will learn as you grow as an individual and as a manager yourself. But at some point, that's something that's very important. So I would agree with Sir Alex that choosing the right players and having them play at the right place on the field is something that's really important. And then the second part is probably coaching. And coaching is about revealing the potential of the people to themselves. That's basically exactly what it is making everybody understand two things. One, they're good, and they can be even better. And second, they owe their performance to the team. That's another coach who said that, and a coach that I like and who have been working quite a lot actually in the past few years, Claude Onesta. Some of you might know, especially the French guys, Claude Onesta. So Claude Onesta is the coach of the French handball national team. It's probably the most performing collective team in the history of French sport. And Claude has been winning, multi-Olympic medals and world championships and European championships. And if you guys follow sports a bit, you know that the French handball team is one of the most performing ones. And it's been going on for 15 years now. And Claude always say, the key for success is when the players understand that they owe their individual performance to the team and that the team owes the collective performance to them. Think about it. So it means that as an individual, you actually have to perform to the level that's expected for the team. The team is not going to carry you. The team is not going to hide you. The team will make you better if you perform for the team. And then you have the right as an individual in the team to expect that the team will actually perform at the right level for you as well. And that's when you succeed in that alchemy, I would say, that you make great things. So that's my coaching rules would be around that. Making sure that I reveal the potential of the individuals and making sure that they understand that they owe their performance to the team. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's really important because in our CEO studio, we try to tell the students that we want them to anticipate. That's what you're saying. I think there's a famous hockey player who said that we don't want, the important thing is not to where the ball is, but where the ball will be. I think it's a hockey player, Wayne Gretzky, who said this. And so it is really very interesting. And we want this CEO studio. By the way, it's going to be interactive. Of course, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions in the second part. To be a market for ideas also. It's important that you ask yourself the right questions. It's important, you have to, asking questions is a good thing. It's not, it helps to, really, it helps to have a better strategy. So, and it made me think of staying with the, in the great champions, great players. I like this anecdote about Jack Nicklaus, the great golf player, Hall of Fame, amazing. It says that it was famous that he knew that he was going to beat you, you knew that he was going to beat you, and he knew that you knew that he was going to beat you. And this puts a lot of pressure on, on the adversarial people. So my next question is, when you have a great competitor really in front of you, how do you feel you are a great competitor in your business and in your personality? There are a lot of competition. Is it important to be really good at the game as it is, with the rules, the competition, the thing, or in what you're doing, to try to, invent kind of a new game where you can be better at, with your competition. A bit like what the judo, competitors do. Maybe even the sumo do, but it's another. How do you react to this?
Well, first of all, and it's no surprise, and probably everybody in the professional life would tell you this, competition is good. Competition makes you better. It makes you better as an individual, it makes you better as a company, it makes you better as a brand. As you might know, in the world of sports, there's really two big brands. The guys with the swoosh, and then the good guys. And both our companies are actually way bigger than the other brands. I'll give you an example, so Nike and Adidas brands are above 20 billion euros worldwide. The next brand would be Under Armour or Puma, and they are 3 billion, give or take. Okay, so that's a huge gap, actually. So you can really say there's a two-horse competition between Nike and Adidas. And honestly, that's good. That's one of the engines of our growth. I'm sure that they would say the same, even though they wouldn't admit it, probably because they're very arrogant. But I'm kidding. Huh? That's the joke of the record. But they would say the same. They would say that their competition with us is actually a great thing for them. Because it forces, obviously, the whole company and the brand to always ask questions, as you were saying, Alexandre, a few minutes ago. You're never sitting, you're never complacent with yourself and with your results. You're always asking what's coming, what are they working on, what are they going to do, how are they going to react to our success? And it's always that questioning that's happening. And then you start developing that culture of positive competition. Huh? And that starts to apply to also individuals within the company, which I like. Obviously, in a sports company like ours, the sports history, the sports anecdotes, and then the sports culture plays a great role. So we like to play around competition, and we like that people are competitive. Now, true competition also comes with rules and integrity. So, and this is something that we promote, that we have as values, and that I do have as value as well. Even myself as a competitive guy, obviously I play within the rules. So I would never, let's say, cheat just to beat the opponent. What I do, as you were mentioning, is that you create new ideas, new battlefields, new grounds, where suddenly you take your opponents and they're not ready. So it can be through innovation. Suddenly you start a new type of products or a new type of technology that was not anticipated, and it completely changes the ground for the sports. I can give you many examples. Maybe one, so Nike has been owning the running business worldwide for 20 years, since they invented air. So air is just air. Air is actually a bubble of air that they put within their soles on the shoe, which creates amortization, okay, cushioning. That's what they do. Through that, and through a great marketing, and through a great product pipe that they've been able to do for 20 years, they've owned that cushioning with air. And then you had other brands that came in, like ASICS. Probably you guys are familiar with ASICS, that came and invented gel. And they said, well, now instead of putting air as a cushioning system, we're going to put gel, which you might say is, okay, might be more performance. Well, and that has been going on for like 20 years. Huh? And then other ones like us, we were using polymers, so foam, basically, okay? None of them was really better than the others. And then 3 years ago, we actually created and invented a new material, completely new technology, coming from the chemical industry, coming from BASF, the German chemical leader. And they invented a material which was made actually for plane aircraft doors that would actually, cushion when there was a plane accident or too much air pressure, that would actually keep the door together. And we actually took that material and started to create shoes out of it. We called it Boost, by the way, for those of you who are a little bit more aware of our products. This is the Boost technology. Well, Boost has completely revolutionized what running cushioning is about. And now every brand, so Boost has become a tens of billions of pairs sold in the world in the last 4 years. So it's become really the leader, but also the leading technology when it comes to a running cushion. And it's become the standard. And then now every brand is trying to catch up with that level of technology. So you take to new grounds. You innovate to create the competition on a different ground. That's what I meant.
It's interesting because it's another version, of the famous phrase by Jacques Welch saying, destroyyourbusiness.com and invent new things. And, there's a famous, I think it's a golf player who says, you make me think about this. Like he used to say, I play within myself and I let the others self-destruct. But it goes with creativity. And you're in a very creative field, a very creative business. This creativity is a bit everywhere. And, but a lot of creative entrepreneurs are in this field. A lot of sports people create their own business. The most famous one recently is LeBron James, but there are others. And it's interesting because how do you react?
Jordan is probably the best example in this, Michael Jordan. And again, it's a brand from the other guys, but I take it as an example. That's one of the that's probably the strongest in the history of sport, of a sports guy that has managed to create a brand on his name. The flying man, the jump man, you guys know that. So it's amazing. Yes, creativity is everywhere. For two reasons. Why? I just mentioned it because that's what gets the industry higher, and that's what's changing the ground. That's one reason. And the second one is because we're in the fashion industry. I mean, we're a business of fashion. If our products, if our brand campaigns, if our technologies are not cool, then like every other fashion brand, we're suffering. So we have to reinvent ourselves and we have to be creative. And today, as I said earlier, sports is in the everyday life. Sports is in the street. It's part of your culture. And so you have to be on trend. You have to feel what the trend is going to be and reinvent yourself. Now, that doesn't come from the sky again. I mean, not everybody can have millions of ideas every 5 minutes. So how do you keep with the trend and remain creative at all times? Well, through others. It's very simple. Just open your doors. Just let the creators come to you. And that's exactly what's at the heart of Adidas strategy. I mean, we call ourselves the creator brand. Because what we do is we open our codes, our resources, our knowledge, our archives, our know-how, our technologies, and we give it to the creators. Sports guys, I mean, they can create products. Leo Messi is creating his products with us. Basketball players like James Harden is creating his products with us. And they actually create them. I mean, they invent what they want to design and wear and have other young people wear. But now we also do it with people from the music and entertainment industry. You guys are probably very familiar with Yeezy and Kanye West. Well, same thing. I mean, this guy is a creator. I mean, you may like it or not like him. I mean, I don't know if you like his music or not. Honestly, I don't judge. I don't even know that I'm in his target audience, to be honest with you. Doesn't really matter. The guy is a creator. The guy has a vision. Truly, I mean, in his music, in his art, in everything he does, actually in his life, he's a visionary guy. What Adidas is doing is give him what we have, which is we have very strong product development people. We have very strong designers. We have very strong technologies. We have materials. We have crafts. We know how to make products. Well, when we partner with a guy like this, I mean, it creates miracles. I mean, the Yeezy products right now, it's amazing. Every time we put a product on the market and it's 100,000 pairs, they sell in 1 minute. 1 minute. And it's been the case for the last 3 years. It's an amazing business. Just based out of creativity. That's why creativity is very important, and that's how we manage creativity within Adidas.
That's very interesting, because not so long ago we had the pleasure to welcome here also an alumni of the school, Arnaud Puyfontaine, CEO of Vivendi, and he was saying this famous thing that, I think you could say it yourself, that content is king, but distribution of content is queen. So both together in the same. And but what he also pointed out is that, and also I can relate to what you say about this, is that strategy is all about execution. Execution.
Yes, that's. So on those two topics, I can talk forever. So on the first one, on content and distribution of content, yes, content is obviously important. Specifically, I mean, in the 2010s marketing type, I mean, we're all about content. You guys know, I mean, with your social networks and all the screens that you have and everything that you follow, it's all about content. I mean, brands fight to create content that they can get to you, their consumers, to make you like them. Actually, within Adidas, our issue is that we have too much content. It's not that we fight to create content, we have too much. Between our branded content, what we do as a brand in terms of the number of products that we launch every week, every day, across multi-sports and across fashion, I mean, that's already a lot. But on top of that, we have the content that our athletes create. I mean, I mentioned a few earlier, but the Pogba and the Messi and the Suarez and all those guys and the Arden, all the content that those guys produce and post on their webs, on their social networks, is also our content. I mean, we manage most of it, or are part of most of that content. And so suddenly, add to this the sports calendar, which is the events happening on which we are sponsors or not, but where our clubs or our federations or athletes play. That's a multi-million content that you have in front of you to manage every day. And our issue, and the issue we have in terms of content, that's where I would say actually distribution of content is king to me, rather than queen, is how do you make sure that within all of this content, not only do you only pick the one that matters the most, that's the most relevant to a target audience, and that you distribute it in the right pipe at the right moment. What I call the pipe is the tube that's going to get to you, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TV, press, out-of-home advertising, doesn't matter, the pipe. And so content management for us is more about how do we make the most impact out of too much. So meaning more by doing less is probably, I would probably summarize like this. The second portion of your question, which I forgot, was about?
There's the one about content, about the strategy and execution.
Strategy and execution. Yes, there again, but it's something that's very easy. Strategy is only 20% of success. 80% is about executing the strategy. And all the strategy books that you may have already read or that you will read in your life, they all start with this, saying that one of the company's biggest reason for failure is that they don't have a plan to actually run the strategy that they had decided, apply the strategy that they had decided, that they spend their time changing strategies, redefining strategies, and never actually apply and go all the way to the end of the strategy. Within Adidas, we have strategies on 5 years, 5-year plans, and we don't change them. And actually, we have a rule. I think I died. No, it's better. It's back. We have a rule that says global plans, countries execute. And so that's a culture. It means that our global team create the strategy, create the content, create the campaigns, create the products, create what we want to do and where we want to do it. And we might talk about the strategy a little bit later for Adidas. But and then the countries and the functions around the world execute that strategy. So there's kind of a culture that's developing that says, do not create, do not recreate. We call it adapt, don't adopt. No, that's the opposite, actually. Adopt, don't adapt. Yeah, that's the entrepreneur within me that's fighting this. Adopt, don't adapt. And that's very important, huh? Just for that reason.
You know, what's really interesting is that when we listen to what you're saying, is that you kind of have a new definition for innovation, in fact, because you speak a lot about talent, and then you have this new definition of innovation, a more holistic approach of innovation and of entrepreneurship. You know, it's funny because this school, we're getting towards our bicentenary, and as you know, one of the co-founders was Jean-Baptiste Say, and he coined the term entrepreneur. And it's interesting because to cut a long story short, it's to unlock, an entrepreneur unlocks, you know, the value which is, you know, and lets it outside and redirects it towards the future. Value which is contained, he unlocks it towards the future, and that's what you were developing about the strategy.
So there again, we didn't talk about what I did, and we will later, Fabien, but I've been an entrepreneur, actually. Before I joined Adidas 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, I actually was an entrepreneur for 7 years. And so I did it the other way around. I mean, usually people start a career, and at a certain stage, when they feel they're ready, they move and they create their own company, startup or whatever. I've done it the other way around. It's just a coincidence, and don't ask me why, but I created a company when I was 25. I sold it when I was 31. And then I said, I made a bit of money out of it. And then I said, okay, what am I going to do with my life? I'm 31 years old. I made a little bit of money, not enough to be on the beach for the rest of my days. Oh, and by the way, I'm 31 years old. That's going to be a long beach life. So what am I going to do with my life? And I entered, I'll tell you the story, but I entered the Adidas world at that time. And since then, I've always tried to be an entrepreneur within the corporate world. Honestly, it's difficult. I have to be honest with you. The big corporations like Adidas, 20 billion, 60,000 people around the world, numerous levels of a hierarchy and influence and political sometimes and so on. It's very difficult to remain an entrepreneur, meaning to remain creative, to remain collaborative, to remain a pioneer into new stuff, taking risk, having your teams take risk with you. That's difficult. But I think that's also what has made a little bit my success within the Adidas world. This was not written, but I like to believe that it's also because I was a bit different. And I brought that to the table, 10 years ago. And I've tried to keep it as much as possible. I'm somewhat different in the Adidas world. Huh? I'm saying that, trying to stay humble on this, but it's true. I mean, today I have a job that the other people around me that have that level and job, they're 10 years older than I am. I'm 42 years old, and the guys that are senior vice president within the Adidas world, they're more in their 50s usually. And the only reason is because I had a different profile. I made my way in a different manner, in a different way than others have done. And the only reason is because I was an entrepreneur. So I would obviously only encourage you to have that double, career experience. Probably it's always very rich.
I think we can relate to what you say with Fabien, because in a way founding the CEO studio here is a way to innovate and being also a kind of entrepreneur inside the business school. But that's another story. Interesting. You know what? I think I'm going to let our Fabien Goeser, our scientific dean for executive education and a great teacher of the school, maybe ask you some more personal questions starting at when you were a student, because Guillaume, by the way, I was also a little more years ago. You're promo 98, I think. I'm promo 88. Not so long ago we were as students in the school. But I think Fabien is going to ask you more personal questions about how you started from, not started from scratch, but started from ESCP Europe.
Yeah. So, jingle. Very nice. Very nice.
So one of the purpose of the CEO studio is to try to understand the path and the training to become a CEO, and the second one is about understanding what is the reality of work of a CEO compared to a top manager. So my first question would be about what you started to talk about, which is your personal path. So how did you reach this position? Trying also to reflect on what you've learned there, and also about what has been, or I hope that there have been some interesting things at ESCP that you have retained and used in this path. So my question is dual, which is what was your path, and what are the learning that you've taken from this path and from ESCP?
Okay. So I'm going to start at the beginning then. So I was born in Paris 42 years ago, as I said earlier, and I've been born and raised in Paris. I am probably what one could call a pure product of the French academic excellence. For the French guys in the room, I've done all my high school and mid-school in Saint-Jean-de-Passy. I've done a preparatory school in Franklin, absolutely, and then the ESCP. So if you look at this from a pure French perspective, you would say the guy ticks the boxes, and he's going to be working at the time it was Arthur Andersen or Goldman Sachs, no problem. His career is made. And in a way, that's how it started. Let's put it this way. And so I came into the ESCP after my 2 years of preparatory school, and honestly, I get bored pretty quickly. I don't know if I should say that, if that's very politically correct, but you'll see that it becomes positive then. I get bored pretty quickly because when you exit preparatory schools, when you've been on the high version of yourself, really for 2 years, and suddenly you come in a place where things are interesting, but they're not that challenging from an intellectual standpoint. I'm sorry, Fabien. I kind of feel the room agrees with me to some extent. I'm destroying your program, guys. I'm sorry. People listen to me because that's going to become interesting. So anyway, you know what I mean. I can feel that you know what I mean. But then there was a great thing at my time at ESCP, which was called the alternance intégrée. I don't know if it still exists in your offer.
Now it's called apprenticeship.
So it's kind of the same. It was the early days of apprenticeship. And that's what I did as a program. And it allowed me to actually accelerate a little bit my time in the school and spend most of my time in actually in companies, okay, as a trainee, which changed the way I looked at the school, the experience I had in the school with actually the professors and the academic program. It made it a completely different picture. Suddenly it became interesting to me. I mean, being able to relate what I was living in the companies within the academic lessons was actually great. And that's how it started. And so that's where I believe, to your point, and to probably this program, that's where it becomes interesting, is when you give a chance to the student to actually touch the real side of things and the real life that's behind the academic and the theory, which is useful, which is needed, and I learned a lot of things. Don't make me say what I didn't say. I learned a lot of things here from an academic standpoint. But it suddenly became very interesting the day that I could relate it to my daily life in a company, which started already in the school. So that was really good. So I did this, spent a year in Arthur Andersen at the time. That's a dead company, you guys don't know, but it was one of the big 4 at the time, huh? 5, maybe 5. Yeah, so it was one of the big 5 audit and consulting companies. So I did that for a year with them. And then when I left, I had 2 things when I left Arthur Andersen after a year. I had a letter that said that the day I was finishing school, I had a job with them if I wanted it. It was an official letter. At the time, that was, everybody had that almost from the ESCP. But that was good. I mean, they were actually hiring us even before we had finished school. Very good. So I had that, and I had the certitude that I would not come back, which was a... So I kind of took the letter, put it in a drawer, and knew inside that unless there was a big drama in my life, I would not come back. This was not what I wanted to do. I knew that. First good point. And then I spent another year at what was called PPR before, so Pinot Printemps Redoute, which is now the Kering Group. And I worked within their strategy department there on something that was actually pretty cool and very interesting. I was working on the Le Printemps strategy, which was trying to launch a mail order activity on the Brumel brand. Brumel is their private label for men's fashion. It still exists, I think. And at the time, they were trying to launch a new activity of mail order, and it was the beginning of internet, so it was like, whoa, something that was really, really big. And I did that for a year. And I kind of liked it. I thought it was very interesting, it was strategic, it was branded. You know, I started to form an opinion that working around brands, innovation, new projects was something that I really liked. Then I obviously left the school. And at the time, guys, in France, you still had to do a military service. I'm probably one of the last ones having done that. So I was, you know, owing 16 months of my life to the French nation, which I did through a program that was called CSNE. I can't even remember which one it was at the time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Which was basically you were working for a French company abroad. I don't know how much of a military service that was, but still, you were representing France in a foreign country, working for a French company. So you were kind of adding value of the French, influence on the world. And I did that in the US, working for Essilor, the leader of eyewear and lenses. You probably have heard of it. All of you wearing contact lenses or glasses, they're probably equipped with Essilor at some point. So I worked in Florida, actually, at the point, and there are US, it's back, US headquarters. I was working on as a marketing project manager, and the project that I was working on was creating their website. Yeah, it might sound weird today, but that was back in 98, 99, and at the time, not a lot of companies had websites that were actually functioning properly worldwide. And one of my first tasks in the corporate world was actually to create a website, which was very interesting. And as I was working with Essilor back in Florida, which was a great time, I met with a couple of friends in the US. A couple of guys who were just graduated from Virginia Tech and Wharton Business School, so pretty good guys. We related from an academic standpoint. They knew ESCP and knew Wharton Business School. See, you know, that creates a network. And anyway, I met those guys, and at Wharton Business School, they had started a company under a project because they were working on entrepreneurship and strategy at the time at Wharton. And their project was about a product that they had invented, which at the time sounded ridiculous, but anyway, their product was an ear warmer, you know, to protect your ears against the cold, but an ear warmer that wrapped behind the back of the head. So it allowed you to actually wear it under a cap, a hat, under your hair if you were a lady, and you know it wouldn't mess with your hair, and you could wear it during sports and so on. And say, okay, what's crazy about this? I don't know what's crazy about this, but they had started to build it really down the street on a small factory that was building that for them, and they started to sell it on QVC. QVC is TV commerce. And the product was flying. I mean, in 5 minutes, literally, they were selling 20,000 pairs of this. So they said, we're onto something. We have something. And they had other product ideas in the same vein. Like they invented a chair, a beach chair, the kind of chairs where you lie on the beach, you know, that you could carry as a backpack, and that was had all tons of features. And suddenly that's how it started. I mean, don't ask me why. I left the company I was working with. I left Essilor in the US, and we created a company. First crazy move I did in my life. I mean, honestly, looking back at it, I'm like, crazy. We had 2 products. We sold a few on TV, and we started a company. Anyway, I started this company with those guys. We called it Big Bang Product Innovation at the time. And our idea was we invented or recreated products that were existing products, but every time we reinvented the products, we had patents on our innovations. So we protected our patents. We designed innovations that we protected. And we created a range of products like this, and we started to sell them. And we started to sell them on TV to start with. That's funny, huh? I have done many live shows of myself on the TV stage selling funny products live on the US soil. That was actually pretty cool. So anyway, the company started, and then we started to do trade shows in the US. You know, there are a lot of trade shows on the outdoor industry and the sports industry, and we started to raise interest from a lot of people around the world. Actually, we had customers from Europe, big companies like Decathlon or Intersport or Carrefour, coming to those trade shows and looking at interesting new ideas that said, we want your product. And so that's how it started to become big. So anyway, long story short, we structured that business. We created a sports brand that was called 180s, that only distributed sports products. So the ear warmers I mentioned to you, and then we added glasses, sunglasses, gloves, apparel, all of them being very innovative and with patents into them. And then we created a beach and outdoor line of product, which was called Celsius, where we did floating hammocks, beach mattress, chairs, and everything else, which we sold in the mass market industry. We started that in 1999. We sold it in 2005. I'm going to be quick. When we sold the company, it was doing 60 million euros of net sales worldwide and employing 200 people. Very, very successful company. I mean, so successful that we had to sell it. It's another thing. Because at the time, money was difficult to find. Back in the 2000s, it was just after the first burst crisis of the internet, and you didn't find money like you do today with all the private equities and stuff. Huh? It was very, very difficult. So we had, let's say, exploited short-term money with our banks as much as we could, and then we had to go to private equity. And private equity at the time, you did one round, they took 20% of your company. Second round, they took 60% of your company, and then that's when you let it go. So anyway, we sold it. Very, very successful experience for me. And from a personal standpoint, I learned everything during those 6 years. Honestly, I learned everything. I learned technical aspects and functions on legal, logistics, accounting and finance, marketing, sales. I mean, all of it, you name it. I started from scratch. I started on TV selling, ear warmers. So, and then I ended with a 60 million euro company. So I really learned everything on this. And it made me what I believe I am today, which, it taught me how to take risk, measured risk, how to cast good people, internationally speaking. It taught me how to collaborate with people from different cultures and countries. All of that, I've learned it through that experience. So as I told you, we're at the end of 2005. I've sold a company, which, by the way, is a painful experience. I should say that as well. It's always very, very difficult to sell the company when you don't want really to sell it. It's your baby. You've put everything into it. You spent 5 years without any vacation. Your wife and young kids are not very happy. They didn't see you for 5 years, and then suddenly you have to let it go. That's very painful. That's so painful that when it happened, I actually had a moment of crash. I say it as it is. I had no energy. I had many, many ideas at the time, and obviously as I was working in this company, I was saying, well, the minute I'm going to do something else, I'm going to create 5 other companies. I always had 5 business plans in my drawers, working on many, many other ideas and projects at the same time, saying, anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And when I sold my first company, I was empty. I was empty. I didn't have any energy. I didn't want to go back and fight again. And so I stopped for like 3 months, and I took 3 months off and said, okay, it's going to come back. And it didn't come back per se as it was before. I was not sure I wanted to do that again at this moment in time. And actually I said, you know what? I'm 31 years old. It might be the moment for me to make a better me. And so go back to the corporate world and learn what I don't have yet. That's going to make my second entrepreneurship experience an even greater success. That was 12 years ago. I entered the Adidas group by coincidence. Well, not exactly by coincidence. I wanted to work in sports. I entered the Adidas group thinking in 2 years from now, I'm out and I'm back on the entrepreneurship. That was 12 years ago. And I'm still there. I'll tell you why. So I started as the sales director for Reebok. That's how I entered the Adidas group. Adidas had just bought the Reebok brand, and they were looking for a sales director. I said, okay, I'm doing it, but as an independent. I don't want to work for you. I want to be independent. Unfortunately, in the corporate world, that's difficult to be a sales director on a fee basis. So that didn't work. So I finally took the job and said, okay, I'm going to do it. But then in 2 years, I'm out. And then after 2 years of sales director, they proposed me to take the actual general management of the brand for France, Reebok brand. That was pretty cool, pretty exciting. I said, okay, the brand was a tough brand, a challenger, very small, difficult. I loved the challenge, and so I took it. And then after 4 years of that, they said, well, take Adidas now. Why don't you do the Adidas brand? I mean, you've done well on Reebok, now take Adidas. And I've switched to Adidas. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that, and then I'll do my entrepreneurship again. And then after 2 years of Adidas, they say, hey, you know what? Why don't you become the managing director for the whole group for France? Oh, cool, exciting. Yes, let me do that. And I did that for another 2 years. And then back in this September, they said, hey, you know what? You've done a great job in France. That's cool. We want you to now take care of Europe. What do you say? Okay, cool. And that's my story with Adidas. So 12 years ago, I was supposed to be there only 2 years, and it's been 12 years. And I'm having a blast. I'm having fun. I mean, I've done a lot of different things. It's a super exciting brand, super exciting people. I learn a lot. I learn a lot every day still. I still believe that I can learn again and again. And there's also something that I know is that probably I will come back to entrepreneurship. It's there. I have it. I've done it before. I know it's there. I will come back to it. I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't know why. But I will probably come back to it. That was long.
No, but it was a great.
That was my story.
It also shows that you've had some different experience in terms of management and leading people. You've been a CEO of a startup company and now CEOs of different categories of companies within Adidas. Yeah. Also CEO of a subsidiary in a big group. Do you see any differences in the daily work of this in these different experiences?
Absolutely. So yes, I've led many different types and sizes of teams of people. Obviously, from functional teams, marketing as a marketing director or as a sales director, you're managing maybe big teams, but monotype. I mean, sales or marketing. And then as an MD, as a managing director, I've managed obviously cross-functional teams. In France, it's approximately 750 employees, so there was a pretty good base. And now for Europe, I'm managing actually 3,500 people under my responsibility. So another even bigger group. Well, obviously, I'm not the only one. I'm helped. I'm structured. I have people helping me in that. But just to lay the ground, yes, I've managed and dealt with very different types of teams and typology of people. I've worked with entry people, I mean young guys starting their careers, and I now have vice presidents reporting into me. So already executives, people with 20, 30 years of experience reporting into me. So very different types of people. Well, obviously, yes, there are many differences. I mean, you do not work with a 27-year-old the same way you work with a 50-year-old vice president or whatever. Many, many differences. But there are also common thread, which I believe reside into two things. What are your personal values and how you convey them to the people you work with? That's one thing. And the other thing is, what are your leadership behaviors? Which I believe is another one that's important. And as I grew in my career and as I learned to be a manager and then a better manager and then a leader eventually, I think I formed pretty strong opinion on a few, let's say on a few values, on a few tickers, on a few engines that make who I am as a manager and as a leader, and on a few leadership behavior or beliefs, if you will, that I try to live myself and also give to my teams and my people working with me. Very quickly, if I can give a few examples of what they are. First of all is be who you are. It's something that I believe in. I always want the people to be better version of themselves. That's exactly what I said earlier. Which means that I need my people, I would like when my people know who they are. It's already a first step. It's difficult. Huh? You don't know who you are until you reach a certain age in life with certain experiences. It varies. Huh? Some people know very well who they are at 25 years old because they have had a life experience which made them very mature and know who they are very early in life. And you have some people for whom it's going to take a way longer time. But it's very important in life to know who you are so that you can be who you are, meaning accept who you are with your strength, your weaknesses, your challenges, assume them, and know how to navigate with them. You know, it's fine to be emotional. It's fine to be emotive, as long as you know how to manage your emotions. You need something like this. When emotions are not controlled and you don't know how to control your own emotions, it becomes a weakness. If you know you're emotional, if you know what makes your emotions appear and become very strong, and you learn how to control that a bit, then it actually becomes a strength, because showing your fragility is a strength, I believe. Okay, so know who you are and be who you are is something that's very important to me. Second thing, and I said it earlier, casting. First who, then what? To take a phrase that you guys know from the books. First who, then what? I believe that when you have the right people at the right place, you can do everything. So it always starts with having the right team alongside you. So it's very important for me. I always spend a lot of time when I'm starting into a new job to build a team. To build a team that I want, that's diverse, complete, performing, efficient, and that lives the values that I'm talking about. The third would be walk the talk. Obviously, again, it sounds easy, but do what you say you will do, and don't let anyone judge you for not doing it. So always be true, be genuine, and show integrity in your actions and in your behavior. I do believe in that. And then the fourth example I could give you is be an helicopter. Be an helicopter. When you're a leader and you're taking more responsibilities, it's very easy to lose track with the ground and the reality. Being an helicopter, meaning you're able to go up and down easily. So you always have to know what's happening in your operations. And even as a senior vice president, I know what's happening in my stores. I know what's happening on my e-commerce sites. Probably not in Czech Republic today, even though it's under my responsibility. But honestly, I know what's happening in my business. That's what I mean. I'm not in an ivory tower just making decisions and signing papers and stuff. I try to know the people. I try to know the activity that they're working on. Do not lose contact with your ground. Is another type of example that I would say. So when you do that, and then you mix it with your ticker, your personal ticker. So mine are, I'm a passionate guy. Maybe you feel that, but yes, I'm passionate. I love what I do. I love sports. That's a topic that I do love. I love brands and the power that they have on culture and on people. Well, you convey that, obviously, I hope I try to convey that passion to the people around me and the people working with me, that's for sure. I'm also very demanding with myself and with others. It's a value that I have. I shoot for the stars, let's put it this way, to take a formula again, which is something that's important to me. So I expect my teams to be in the same mindset. And then I'm about positive energy. I am a firm believer in this. Positive energy is the fuel for innovation. It's the fuel for impact. And so I always ask my people, and I do the same for me, is know your sources of energy. Know what makes you relief, what makes you stronger, what makes you feel good. Do more of what makes you happy, I would say. Do more of what makes you happy. That's very, very important. For some people, it's going to be being with friends. For some of you, it's going to be being alone. For some of them, it's places or locations in the world. For some of them, it's going to be sports or spending time with their kids. Doesn't matter. I mean, everybody has their own sources of energy. But it's very important to have sources of energy, to know what they are, and to use them. Because that your level of energy as you grow into your professional life is something that you will have to manage. And so you will have to have sources of energy. Just a few examples of the way I function.
Guillaume, really at the heart of our matter, because we are looking at each other with Fabien, saying that if we created the CEO studio, is to have those kind of moments. We're really... so thank you, really, Guillaume, because we are at the heart of why we created the CEO studio, to hear those kind of things. And it's really, really interesting. Before we leave some questions to the room, 2 or 3 remarks. The first is that you're really what I would call a creative entrepreneur. Is that, creative entrepreneurs, for me, have many of the entrepreneur characteristics, but 1 or 2 features more, maybe. First being that you're not dented by failure. You can see this, and so you're doing it, and you have something that you gather assets and things like snowball. You're really quick, and this is very important. And you consider when you have to when you're doing something, there's a sense of urgency, that you have to deliver. And that's something vital, and you convey this sense. So this really, I call it a creative entrepreneur. Another thing is that we have this debates at the moment. Some beings more givers, more takers, and you're obviously a giver because you're an opportunity provider for your team, for what you do. It's important. Giver in the sense that you seem to create a spiral of teamwork and really give them the opportunity to really add value, and we can feel that because you convey this, but you convey something else also. Is that I think it's a remark by Jeff Bezos that says this, and you're really it's interesting what you say about this, because it's not being when we listen to you, it's not question of being smart or more intelligent, but it's more a question of being right. I think when we follow what you've been doing, you seem to be the kind of people that you're right many times, and you can take a tough call, and then make answers and take a position and then wait until it's a win. But it's not obvious, and you have a reputation of providing what I would call air cover for your team. That you're very protective also about your teams, which we can. So you can react to this, and then after go to the assistants and ask some questions.
Well, first of all, thanks. You're saying lots of nice things on me. I don't know if I deserve all that, honestly. But anyway, a few things on this. First of all, that's something that might be useful for the students in the thing. The difference between being a manager and a leader of a big company is that at some point you stop managing individual personalities, or it's less of a topic, and your job becomes to manage flows of energy, flows of work, flows of people together, flows of tensions, flows of decisions. That's what being a CEO is about. Huh? It's actually managing the flows of the company so that it performs at its best at all time. And sometimes it's flows of decisions. There's decisions to be made, and you make them because it's your job. It's part of the job to make decisions. Question is how you make them, but anyway. Sometimes it's people, levels of energy, as I said. I mean, it can be a lot of different flows. It's teams, it's moments in your activity, in the life of your company. You always manage flows. To be a good manager of flows, it requires soft skills. Things that you don't learn. Things that you don't learn in books or that you don't see, that are not technical skills that you acquire. Soft skills, understanding people, understanding groups, understanding energy. I think that's what makes the difference. And that's what's great, actually, about leadership and about those jobs in big companies, is because it's all about this. It's about feeling the things, doing your job. I mean, at every moment in my life, I had to make decisions. You have to make decisions. And the bigger you grow, the bigger the decisions and the bigger the impact. But honestly, that's pretty easy, because when you learn how to make decisions and you've been used to that, okay, the impact is bigger, but you're also more prepared to make those bigger decisions. So that's fine. That's not the most exciting or scary part. The exciting or scary part, as you said, is being right, being true, and being right at the right moment. And that's the soft skills. That's the feeling. That's the guts. That's the trust. That's the energy around what you do, what your company does, and so on. And that's what I like about the job. And I don't know how here a management school like ESCP can actually give that sense and that feeling to already young people starting their life, their professional life. Already teaching them how to develop their soft skills, which will eventually make them greater, faster, more intelligent, in the term of emotional intelligence, leaders. That's what I would say to your points.
Thank you.
I'm sure that some people are dying to ask questions. I see one there.
Hello, my name is Pierre Junior. I'm glad to meet you. I was at Saint-Jean-de-Passy as well, so that's nice. And so I just had a question to know, at what point do you put the border between like creativity and like economic issues? So I would take a few examples. I hope it talks to you. Like you said, you were at Reebok. They just announced a collaboration with Victoria Beckham. You have Gucci Mane, you have Lil Yachty, you have Vetements, you have like, there's so many rappers like in Reebok and Adidas. You have Pharrell, Chanel. So honestly, personally, I think Kanye West is a visionary. Like Pharrell is a visionary. But on the other hand, you have so many rappers. So I don't know if it's really a thing of visionary or it's just economic. Because honestly, I've never been able to have a Yeezy. Like as soon as it's released, it's sold out. Like, so I don't know. So I don't know if it's just, to make some money, great moves, or if it's really like something of visionary and creativity and stuff. Thank you so much.
It's a very good question. Thanks for asking it. A couple of points to answer you. First of all, not all of our contracts and partnerships with celebrities are about creativity or creation. Okay? Not all of them. We do not make products or open our books, as I said earlier, to all the rappers or musicians or singers or actors or whatever, name it, that work with us, endorse our product, wear our products, and so on. Okay, only a few of them. You mentioned Pharrell, you mentioned Kanye. Those guys are real creators, and actually they create. And you know what? They create stuff that you want, which is a good sign. But I got to be honest with you. It's true that if you ask me if Gigi Hadid or Victoria Beckham are creators that make a difference in the 21st century of creation? No. And by the way, they don't create anything. They just put their names on products that we develop. I mean, you know, they endorse, that's what I call endorsement. They endorse product collections. They might give their opinions and say, I like this. But that's kind of it. Very, very different of what we do with Pharrell or with Kanye. Pharrell and Kanye, I mean, they make the collections. I mean, they decide the materials, the design, everything. Actually, we would never have made a Yeezy product, the shoe as it is, as Adidas. Huh? I mean, do you think it looks like an Adidas product? No. Obviously, it doesn't. No, it's true. It's very, very different from what we usually do. But that's what's very interesting. That's why it's creative. I mean, you take the guys, the best guys from Adidas, you give them to Kanye, and boom, that's what happens. That's really exciting, huh? Really cool. So it's both. There are things that are marketing stories, and there are things that are pure creation.
Hello, my name is Catherine. So my question is, hearing your impressive stories and your achievements, I would like to know what type of leadership have you used, starting as an entrepreneur of a 60 million company to a very top-notch company? Did it change, like from an entrepreneur leadership type to Adidas? Did it change, or where you remain consistent of your leadership skills? So I am curious, so it is something that we might be inspired of or to follow.
Thank you for the question. Well, yes, obviously it evolved. I'd like to say I probably didn't change. I'm still very much the same that I was 20 years ago, but it evolved. I built my leadership style as I grew on the experience. Well, obviously, when you're starting a company and you hire the first employee and then the second, and then eventually you've hired 200 people, you don't lead them and manage them the same way as you lead and manage a 3,500 company where you didn't hire anyone. I mean, basically, I just took the job. I mean, those guys are in 35 different countries. I did not hire them. They're there, but they're now on my team, and I have to be a leader for them. So that's what I said earlier. All the values and the leadership behavior of which I gave you a few examples earlier, they have developed. 10 years ago, I could not tell you, here is my leadership style, here's what I believe in, and here is what I want to be as a leader. Like I just did a little bit earlier, the things in which I believe make my leadership style. So I have become a leader. Probably when I was an entrepreneur, I was not a leader. I was an activity manager and I was a people manager. And then I have eventually become a leader, which is leader is something a little bit different. Huh? You know that. I mean, you've probably learned a bit, but leadership is something more than people's management. Leadership is about what I said earlier. It's about organizations. It's about flows. It's about going to war with people wanting to die for you, almost, when you are an absolutely a great leader. That's a little bit that sense. And I don't know if I'm a great leader. Honestly, that's not for me to judge. But I certainly have increased my skills and my competencies in that area, to answer your question. It's difficult for me to give you a list of. To be a good leader, you have to be honest, be nice, be cool. Obviously, that's not the way it works. It's what I said earlier. It's about adding to professional skills and to your management skills, because managing people, again, is something that's technical, something that's on top of this, which is the understanding of the flows, the understanding of the energies that float into an organization. That's what makes leadership, I believe. I don't know if that talks to you, to be honest. Sometimes I wonder.
Any question? Just one remark. I really like this definition about mastering the flows. But definition.
I don't know how that talks to 25-year-old people.
Well, if you've seen Star Wars or Avatar, maybe you can relate.
Yeah, exactly.
This is very interesting. Yeah. But we'll
Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Xin Junyan and I'm from China. First of all, really thank you for your life experiences and sharing. I'm really impressed with a lot of sentences. So my question is about the teamwork. And if I remember right, you mentioned to choose the right people and the right team. And I began to think like when you start action, when you start a strategy, will you like to put the people in the first? Will you like to choose the right people you really appreciate? And then you begin to start about ideas? Or will you choose to have your own ideas and then you will choose the people? Thank you.
It's a super cool question. I like that because that's something that I should have talked about and I didn't. So thank you for asking, giving me the chance to talk about this. In one of my leadership beliefs that I shared earlier, there's one that I like a lot, which is convergence. I believe in convergence, which means I believe in the power of people coming together. I believe in great ideas being formed by a team rather than an individual, you know. Because I'm strong-minded and because I'm also now experienced in my industry, it's sometimes very easy for me to fall in the trap of having opinions and having ideas. And actually, because I'm strong-minded and I'm the boss, it could be very easy to say, you know what, guys, we're going to do as I say, and this is what I think, so let's do what I think. Honestly, I've tried to stay away from this. And I try to answer your question to really have the team develop the strategy and the ideas and the action plans. And I tried, when I say mastering the flow again, that's exactly what I try to do with the teamwork. And that's why it's very important to have the right team. A performance team is a team that's diverse. I mean it, diversity is really important. I mean, you know that because you are from a generation that's very diverse. But you know, in big companies like ours, diversity is always a topic. Huh? You know, women's, different culture, different, you know, religions, different, whatever. Everything that makes teams different talk to the performance of the team, will improve the performance of the team. I truly believe into diversity. So, and then a team that functions well together, which is probably the most difficult fit to find. We'll come back again to the flows. It's very difficult to know in advance if people are going to work well together. That's why I spend a lot of time on the casting before I actually spend the time on the strategy. The strategy is actually easier when you have the right team. So to answer your question, first the team, and then I try to let the team find the ideas and the strategies.
So you believe when the team is shaped, they come together for a common value.
Yes.
And then you fight together for.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, but as I recruit them or as I put them in my team, I very much check on the values, on the value side. That's important. In Adidas, we have 3 very important values that we put we call it the leadership framework. See, that's interesting. It means it's the frame to be a leader at Adidas. All the people that have a leadership position in Adidas, they have to share that framework. If they don't, they're not leaders at Adidas. And actually, some people get fired not because their performances are not good, because they don't have the right behavior. And those values, those behavior, we call them the 3 C's. It's collaboration. You know, we put that as a very high value within the Adidas group. It's creativity, again, fostering creativity, having ideas, letting others have ideas, putting ideas into action, which is important into the creativity. And the 3rd C is confidence. Being confident, which means, and it comes back to what I was telling you earlier, know yourself, accept who you are, and make it a strength. That's confidence. So those values, I check them on the people I hire or get in my team. That's very important.
It's actually, you remind me. It's actually, you remind me a book like From Good to Great, because they also provide the same perception. That's why I ask you this question, but it's exactly the same.
I'd love to be in the next version of it. That would be a great honor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So my question is more like kind of concerning your talk before, because you were an entrepreneur before you go into the Adidas, and you talked that you bring your entrepreneur character into your company work, daily work. I mean, how can you keep your entrepreneurship that style in a company, especially in a big company? Because as I know, there are kinds of office bureaucracy and a kind of a pressure, not only from the people above you, but also people under you, because you need to push them to your work, and I think there's something missing between this. So as I'm wondering.
Yes, it's how I said. It's very difficult. I mean, because big corporations, it's not the nightmare. Huh? They're not how you're describing them.
Yeah.
No, but there's a bit of that. I mean, they're big world. They're complex. You have a lot of matrix, and you work with a lot of different people under a lot of different projects, a lot of different timings. There's pressure. We're on the DAX, so we're a company that has to produce quarterly results to the financial community. So every 3 months, there's like this financial pressure of what the financial experts are going to say about us and about our performance. All of that would very, very easily kill any entrepreneurship spirit or mindset. And I don't know that I'm still a true entrepreneur. I mean, probably people that have created lots of companies would judge me as a pure corporate product and say, man, forget it. I mean, you're not an entrepreneur anymore. Maybe it's true, I don't know, maybe I lost it. But I like to believe that I did not lose it. And what I try to keep is mainly two things. One, the passion, which is, would you agree that that's something that makes an entrepreneur? Sure. He's passionate about what he does and truly believes in it. Well, I truly believe in what I do. And I'm passionate about it. And that's why I've been staying 12 years. Huh? Because I can tell you, if I was bored or I didn't really believe in what I was doing, I would have left already. And the second thing is being able to create, being able to have ideas, putting them into action. That's something. And honestly, in the Adidas world, I've been able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe that's not enough to call myself an entrepreneur in the corporate world. But I like it. As long as I can keep those two things alive in me, which is my passion is alive, and my ability to create is alive, then maybe I'll become an entrepreneur again someday.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kano, student from ESCP, and my question would be, what's your current personal motivation, drive? Where does it come from, and how did it change, compared to when you were 20s?
My drive?
Drive, yes. What drives you?
When I was 20, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Okay, so as I said earlier, I did the academic, course and went from school to school, and then ended up here and got bored a bit and was not exactly sure what I wanted to do. So I didn't have a drive, a professional drive or career drive at that time. Had personal drivers. Huh? I mean, talking about my passion for sports, it's always been there. I mean, I've always been doing a lot of sports, watching a lot of sports, going to stadium a lot, football, rugby, golf, tennis, you name it. I've done a lot of that. And so my driver started where I discovered that I wanted to work in sports. I wanted to do that as a living, and then I did it. Huh? I chose to do it. Created a company in that field, and then when I sold my company, I decided to continue to work in the sports industry. Could have done something else. Today, my drive is still the same in that sense, my passion for sports and for what I do. There's something more, which I didn't have at the time, and it's the passion for people. That's what I said earlier. I like what I do because I like the people I do it with. I love managing those people, leading those people. I love to take them with me to new grounds. I love to do that. I love to move organizations. in the sense of being in movement. I think that's something that's a very important thing for me today, that motivates me every morning. I mean, guys, you will see when you become a CEO or an important job in a company, I mean, really, at a point, it's really about people. It's all that matters. And it's what's difficult, it's what matters, and it's what makes a difference. So at the end, I mean, you will see that your focus will mostly be around the people. Because as I said earlier, for the rest, you have teams, and then you're well equipped. It's easy to make a decision. I mean, for most, I would say for most CEOs reaching that point, it's easy to make a decision. I don't think this is something that's scary or difficult for them. The most difficult part, but also the most enriching one and the most rewarding one, is people. So that's a driver for me.
Good evening. Thank you very much for tonight. My name is Sebastian, and you talked through tonight, and I was very sensitive to that. So this is why it leads me to ask you a more personal question, maybe. In 2024, Paris will welcome the Olympic Games. So many challenges in terms of sports, business, innovation. I'm sure as a sport passionate that you are, you want to be involved in this. How do you want to be involved? As an entrepreneur or with the Adidas group? I'm sure you don't have a certain idea right now, but...
No, but I like your question. Thanks for asking it. No, it's super cool. And truth is, I don't know. I don't know yet. I've not figured it out. First of all, let me celebrate that because I think it's really, really cool that the Olympics are coming to Paris. I have fought for it, actually. I've worked on a little bit on the Olympics. It's funny because Tony Estanguet and Laura Flessel, so the president of the COJO, so the Olympic Committee, and the Minister of Sports in France, they are both long-time Adidas athletes. They've done all their careers with Adidas. So there are two people that I know very well, actually, personally. And so we've been, as Adidas, we've been pretty close to those people during that period. And so for us, it's amazing and it's super great that we have the Olympics. Now to answer your question, yes, Adidas will be part of the Olympics. You know what? That's the number one lesson from our founder. Only the best for the Olympic athletes. That's how we started this company. Huh? Only the best for the Olympic athletes. Since then, we've always been in the Olympics. Since the day one of the company. So we will be in the Olympics in Paris. I don't know how. I don't know under what format. It's too early to say because in 2024, the way brands will live within the Olympic world and in a city like Paris is probably very, very different than what you think today. And so let's not build plans that say, hey, in 2024, we will do this and this and this and this. Because I tell you, within 3 years, you will have canceled everything and do something completely different. So I don't know how. And personally, I don't know where I will be in 2024. But I will be in Paris for the Olympics, that's for sure. That's for sure. You can count on it.
Hello, my name is Paul Mina, and I'm an MBA student here at the ESCP. I'm a pharmacist also, so I got nothing to do with sports industry, but Adidas is my favorite brand. Also, I'm an American citizen, but I don't like Nike.
Many more start to be like you, that's good.
Okay, thanks. My question was in reference to your response or your answer to Catherine's question. Yeah, I understand that we need to adjust as we go. However, you said earlier, Adidas sticks to 5 years plan. As a startup, so if we start something on our own, we cannot take 5 years of losses if something doesn't work. At the same time, we don't want to be changing directions or changing plans every month. What do you consider to be kind of certain period of time or certain measures until we reach that when we reach that point, definitely we need to make a change or need to change business plans or business model because we cannot keep losing for 5 years like Adidas. So,
and I understand that.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a very good question again, and thanks for that exchange. I understand perfectly the challenge you're asking me. And what's true for Adidas might not be true for a startup company, obviously. Yeah? But however, let me tell you two things. One, if a strategy is really good, then it should hold 5 years. Because if a strategy is really good, it's adaptable. It's adjustable to what's going to happen during that time frame. Meaning a strategy is not a detailed action plan for each and every day during the 5 years. Strategy is the frame. Is where do I want to go, and what is the frame that I'm going to build that's going to get me there. I can tell you a little bit more if you want to understand what I'm talking about for Adidas, for example. So Adidas, our plan for the period that's 2016, 2020, so those 5 years, is called Creating the New. Again, we're coming to this. And what we're saying is we're actually creating the new Adidas. Because we are a very traditional brand, you know that. And our previous period, so the period that led us into 2015, was very traditional for us. We did football, we did apparel and training, and that was pretty much it. And our fashion business, our creativity, our innovations was not that great. And so we created a plan that said, okay, we're going to put our brand first again, and we're going to do it through new, so called Creating the New. And the way we did it is we said, okay, to do Creating the New, we'll have three focuses. Very simple, 3 focuses. These are going to be the frame, the architecture of our Creating the New plan. And those 3 focuses are the following. Key cities. In Adidas, we believe that the world of sports and fashion in the next few years is going to be booming in cities, in the big cities of the world. And that the big cities of the world are going to have so much of a halo effect on the rest of the world that they actually create the culture for the complete world. So winning in New York, winning in Paris, winning in London, winning in Tokyo and Shanghai, and winning in Los Angeles will make us win the world. And so we have actually created a plan that's targeting those 6 cities in the world as number 1 priorities for us. And we do it for real. I mean, we create more stores in those cities, we create more marketing plans in those cities, we create trade zone attacks in those cities where we manage block by block the presence of our brand in the city. There's a lot of stuff that's happening right now on the Adidas brand in those cities. That's one thing. But how we do it in each of the city, each month or each year, that might change. And that's fine. But cities will not change in the course of the next 5 years. See? The second one is open source. I mentioned open source when we talked about our partnerships with our creators. We believe that our new Adidas and our creativity will come also through others and through the people who are creative in the world. And that's how we work with Pharrell and with Kanye and with James Harden and with Paul Pogba and give the keys of creativity on the Adidas brands to those guys. But we also work with Google on the future of apps. But we also work with the German government on the future of machinery. How will robots be in the future to build new footwear that I can actually build your shoe, your pair of shoe in 1 hour to your exact size in a store. We know how to do that today. That's open source. As Adidas, we wouldn't be able to create that, but the German government and the engineers, the top-notch engineers and development programs of the German government, together with us, we've created that program. We now have robots that can build a pair of shoes to your exact size and dimensions in a store in 1 hour. Boom. That's the future. Open source. And tomorrow, that will change. There will be something else in 2018. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Still the strategy. And the third one is speed. How do we bring speed to the market? How do we react quicker to the market trends and respond to the consumer demands in a quicker way than today? Today, it takes 6 months to actually develop, build, and ship a product to Europe or to the US. It's just what it is. We're a very slow industry. Well, we're completely changing the way we design, the way we develop products, the way we market our products, and the way we bring them to life on the markets. That's called speed. Those 3 focuses, key cities, open source, and speed are at the heart of our strategy for creating the new. This is creating the new Adidas. And then there's a third one that's called culture. This is what I was talking about. That's why it's the most important. People. How do we create the new Adidas with people? How do we attract and retain and develop more talents? How do we develop our leaders so that they live more and more our values? That's the type of things that we're doing, culture. Once you have that frame, which I call the strategy, you have a goal, financial KPIs and everything else, and you know how you want to reach that. Within that frame, you can design all the action plans that you want and change them every year. That's okay. But the big picture remains the same. Did I answer your question? Yes. Thank you so much. Sure.
Hello, sir. My question got stolen, but it's fine. So I was about to ask, apart from hold on, entrepreneurship and sport, which are obviously now for all of us your two passions. What has been your blast over the last 20 years in your career? So it seems to be leadership. So I have a question to go further or beyond this question. I would like to ask you an example that you experienced recently about leadership, about leading people as a senior vice president of Europe. What would be this experience? And don't hesitate to go into details, please. Don't hesitate to go into details.
You can apply for a job, by the way.
I think I did go into details until now, right? You know, I'll give you the one example that comes to my mind is actually not in my job of a consumer direct. By the way, you know what I do? I'm not sure I even said what I do. Huh? It's probably difficult to understand what it is consumer direct for us within the Adidas world. So, and then I'll answer your question, but it reminds me I didn't exactly tell you what it is. So what I do is within Adidas we sell to stores, to customers, Decathlon, Intersport, Sport 2000, SDI, JD, Foot Locker, you name it. 3,000 of them around the world, customers. We call that wholesale, and that's probably 70% of our business. And then there's another part of our business, which is consumer direct channels. So it's our own stores, the Adidas stores around the world, franchise stores, so stores that we open that are Adidas stores but operated by franchisee, by partners, okay? And then e-commerce, our websites. So what I do today is I take care of our consumer direct channels, so our own stores, our franchise stores, and our e-com sites for the 35 countries that make up Europe today for Adidas, okay? So that's what so it's, to give you perspective, it's 350 stores of our sales, 300 franchisees, and it's 32 websites. Adidas and Reebok, both brands in many, many countries. Okay, so that's what it's. So the picture is complete. Just to give you the perspective, it's a 1.2 billion euro business that I manage today, and it's, as I said earlier, 3,500 people. So anyway, coming back to your question, just because I wanted to clarify what I do, that might be helpful. The example I wanted to tell you on my latest blast as a leader is pretty interesting. It was when I was the managing director of France, which, by the way, dates back 2 months ago, because I just started that job. So before that, I was the managing director for France. In France, the company is headquartered in a small village in Alsace, so in the eastern part of France, a village that's called Landersheim, which is located 35 kilometers away from Strasbourg. That's where actually the company headquarters is. And that's where it has been since 1952. So since actually Adidas France was created by the son of Adi Dassler, Horst, which I mentioned earlier this afternoon when I told you about sports marketing, how he invented sports marketing. Well, he created Adidas France, which was the first subsidiary of Adidas outside Germany, back in the days, 1950s. For the last 60 years, the company has been in that building. We own it, it's where we live, it's where our generations of employees have grown, it's where the fidelity, the engagement of our employees has been. And then 4 years ago, when I was appointed managing director of the company, the board, so the global boss, they came to me and they said, you got to leave that shithole. We have to be somewhere else. I mean, we cannot stay forever into that village. So move everybody to Paris. Wow. 400 people working in that place, 60 years of history, a lot of things have happened there. Huh? I mean, you have the picture. I said the guy invented the sports marketing. In those offices, Pelé signed his first contract. The Olympics were created there. All of the big moments of the Adidas brands of the 70s and the 80s happened in that place. I mean, you don't kill a place like this easily. So in the beginning, I was in favor of it. I must be honest. I was like, I'm a young leader. I know that the Adidas brand has to be in Paris, and that obviously this is awkward and ridiculous that the company has its headquarters in Landersheim, 45 kilometers away from Strasbourg. Doesn't make sense. Company has to be in Paris. So I said, okay, we're going to do that. And then I worked with my team and my management team on the scenarios on how the fuck are we going to do that? Excuse my French. How are we going to do that? And you know what? When we worked on the project, I changed my mind. I changed my idea. And I started to formulate an idea that it would be too big of a loss to actually close that office. We would lose many, many people. But through the many, many people that we would lose, we would actually lose a tremendous amount of expertise and of skills that it would probably take 10 years to rebuild in Paris. Honestly, very difficult. So I changed my mind. And I started to work on a project where I said, okay, we're going to do two things. Yes, we're going to build a headquarters office in Paris. And we're going to have a stronger presence of the Adidas brand in Paris. But we are going to keep an headquarters in Alsace. And the way we did it is we are actually closing our head office in Landersheim. It's going to be closed by the end of Q1 next year, so end of March. But we're building a brand new office in the city of Strasbourg so that the people can remain in that place. Where I say I'm proud of this, and you'll see why it's a leadership call, it's because first I had to sell that project to my board, which was not the initial project. It's a project that was more expensive, and that was not to the target that I was given. And I had to convince them and to sell them that project, which I managed to do with my team. And the second thing is I had to sell that to the employees, to the company, saying, we're going to close that office and we're going to move to Strasbourg. And I had to tell them the truth. I had to tell them the full story, but without saying, I'm the hero and those guys from Global, they don't know what they're talking about and I saved your ass and, now thanks to me, you remain in Strasbourg, that's great. No, I mean, we had a lot of people for whom it was very emotional. But you know what? I had 100% of approval on the project from the company. From a leadership standpoint, I made the story quite short, even though I gave you details, but from a leadership standpoint, those moments are really a blast. Because you create value for your people, you create value for your company, and you manage to bring creativity and a whole new idea in a situation which in the beginning, honestly, was a tough one. Great moment for me.
Thank you very much for this.
Yeah.
I think perhaps we could give a few more minutes. I'm sorry, because we won't be able to keep you for a very long time, so I'm sure that there will be more questions, but perhaps we can give you the last word as a conclusion, and perhaps afterwards those who still have some questions could run down to ask you some questions before you leave. Can you perhaps give us, your conclusion, what is a CEO job and what these people should do in order to maximize their chance to become CEO, effective CEO and happy CEOs?
Well, first of all, it's a job. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes engagement. You're very much alone at some point to do it, and you know it's a lonely job. It's true, huh? It's there are moments and decisions when you're actually on your own, and people turn to you to have your decision making, and you have to do it. I said it's not that difficult, but it's lonely. You don't have a lot of people you can actually relate to. It's a job, but it's a great job, and it all relates about, again, I said it earlier, but that's maybe that's the key idea of this intervention tonight is it's the understanding and the management of the flows in a company. That's what the CEO job is about. The rest is technical and is easy and is made by other people in your teams. And it's great because if you have a great team, you have great people, they're skilled, they will make the right things, they will make the right decisions, they will design the right strategy, they will execute the strategy all the way to the end, and it will be very strong. Your job is to make sure that this happens through the management of the different flows. That's what the CEO job is. Now, how do you prepare for that? I have no idea. Many, many ways of doing it. I don't know if some of you were in the other room when I was there a few weeks ago already, sharing with you guys. No, you probably weren't, because I was actually giving the inaugural, what do you call it, lecture or whatever, to the guys joining the school a few weeks ago. And what I told them is, be inspired. So let me give you the same message. Be inspired. Find inspirations. This is a driver of your life. People who are inspired are people who make the difference in life. And inspiration can come from many, many places. It doesn't have to be people, activities, it doesn't matter. But find what inspires you. Find what gives you the sparks, makes you better, makes you want to be this. I want to be this guy, I want to be that. I love doing this, I want to do that more. Find this. And find this now. Find this as young as possible. Find it in other people. Find your inspiration in people. Meet other people. Develop productive relationship. Not only friendship, not only people you like to hang out with and have drinks and so on. Get the people richness into you. That's going to make better versions of yourself. And that starts now. It starts at your age, guys. You will need that when you're a CEO eventually.
Well, Guillaume, thank you very much. I think it's true that you kind of created the job of your dreams. And that's another thing that you convey. And this is very important. And we're all, I think we had a lot tonight. We're all very happy to share this. Because you convey also this sharing thing. And well, Fabien and I are very happy also because you gave us a new definition of leadership, this mastering the flows, and it gives us some more work, but we're going to work on it because this is really very creative anyway. So thank you for your time. Thank you very much, Guillaume.
Thank you. And see you to the next CEO studio.